welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into the Philippines' main intelligence body. That's the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency, NICA.
Exactly. It's a crucial agency. And we've gathered quite a bit of material for this, from NICA's own info, public stuff, and other sources looking at its history.
Right. And our mission here is to really understand what NICA actually does, how it's set up, and, well, how it got to be the way it is today. Okay, so maybe the most basic place to start. When did NICA actually come into being?
Well, officially the date is July 10th, 1949. But it's important to know this wasn't like the absolute start of intelligence work in the Philippines. There were agencies before it.
Okay. Like the predecessors mentioned in our sources. NISA, the National Intelligence and Security Authority.
Yeah, and CISA, the Civil Intelligence and Security Agency. They definitely paved the way before NICA took its current form.
Got it. And NICA operates under the Philippine government.
That's right. Headquarters are in Quezon City. And it's not a small outfit, around 910 employees as of this year, 2024.
Wow, 9910. That's significant. And the person in charge currently?
That's Director General Ricardo de Leon. And he reports quite high up.
To the Office of the President, I believe.
Indeed. NICA's parent agency is the Office of the President. So that really highlights, its connection to the top level of executive power.
Makes sense. They even have a motto, right? Something about knowledge.
Yes. Kalaman e kaligtasan. It translates to knowledge is safety. Pretty apt.
Knowledge is safety. Yeah, that really fits an intelligence agency. So, okay, beyond just gathering info, what are the core things NICA is tasked with? What do they do?
Well, their mandate is really broad. They handle intelligence activities, and that includes overt, open stuff, but also covert and clandestine operations.
So the whole spectrum.
Pretty much. And a key thing is they direct, coordinate, and sort of integrate all the intelligence activities that relate to national security. Doesn't matter if it's foreign or domestic.
Okay, so they're like the central nervous system for Philippine intelligence.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. They're the lead intelligence collector for the government, focusing especially on strategic intelligence, the big picture stuff.
Strategic intelligence,
yeah.
Meaning like long-term threats and planning.
Exactly. The kind of information needed for national security planning, for policy decisions down the line.
And this info isn't just for NICA itself.
Oh, definitely not. A huge part of their job is preparing these detailed intelligence assessments, looking at local situations, foreign situations.
And who gets these assessments?
They go right to the President and the National Security Council. They're vital for shaping national security policy.
Okay, so collect, analyze, inform the leadership. What else is on their plate?
Well, they're also the main hub for government counterintelligence.
Protecting against spying and sabotage.
Right. Protecting national interests from hostile foreign intelligence services, things like that. And another really big one, counterterrorism. They act as the secretariat to the Anti-Terrorism Council.
That's a major role, especially now. And the sources mentioned something about the communist insurgency, too.
Yes, they head up a specific part of the National Task Force to end local communist armed conflict. It's called the Situation Awareness and Knowledge Management Cluster.
So bringing intelligence to bear on that specific internal challenge.
Exactly. It's about understanding the situation on the ground.
Okay, let's talk structure then. We know the Director General reports to the President. How's the rest of the agency set up?
So the Director General has 2 Deputy Director Generals assisting, and while the main HQ is in Quezon City, they've got regional offices all over the Philippines.
Oh, even outside the country?
Yeah, they have foreign stations too, in places strategically important to the Philippines.
Interesting. Is there any kind of advisory body?
There is. The National Intelligence Committee. The Director General chairs it, and it serves an advisory function, bringing in different perspectives.
And internally? Different department.
Key divisions like the Director of Operations, that's your collection side. Then the Directorate of Production, they analyze the intel. Plus administration, planning, finance, the usual organizational parts.
Sounds fairly standard, but obviously with a very unique mission. I saw a note about a recent appointment related to surveillance.
Yes, June 2024. Geniso Leonardo Auxilio became Executive Director of NMARSC. That's the National Maritime Aerial Reconnaissance and Surveillance Center.
NMARSC. So
yeah.
Eyes in the sky and over the sea.
Basically, yeah. They focus on imagery intelligence, think aerial photos, satellite imagery, crucial for maritime monitoring, especially for an archipelago like the Philippines.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, now the history. This is where it gets really interesting, because NICA hasn't always been NICA, has it?
No, not at all. But like we said, it started in 49 under President Carino, but then a big change in 1972. President Ferdinand Marcos abolished it
And replaced it with?
with NISA and CISA, the National Intelligence and Security Authority and the Civil Intelligence and Security Agency.
Right. And NISA, well, it carries some heavy baggage from that era, doesn't it?
It really does. That's a critical point. Under General Fabian Ver, NISA is alleged to have been involved in significant human rights abuses during martial law.
What kind of abuses?
Well, the sources point to spying on opposition figures, abductions, even alleged eliminations. It was reportedly used to suppress dissent against the Marcos regime.
A very dark period. And that must have really shaped how people viewed intelligence agencies.
Absolutely. It left a deep mark. Then, in 1978, NISA was formally designated as the lead intelligence body.
So how did we get back to NICA?
After the People Power Revolution in '86, things changed again. President Corazon Aquino came in, dissolved NISA and CISA, and then reestablished NICA in 1987.
And its focus shifted then.
Yes, the immediate priority for the revived NICA was tackling the communist insurgency, a clear change in direction after the regime change.
And oversight changed, too.
It did. In 1990, oversight responsibility for NICA was given to the National Security Advisor. The idea was to keep it closely aligned with the President and the National Security Council's strategic goals.
And NICA had some notable successes in counterterrorism later on.
Yes, sources credit NICA agents with capturing key Abu Sayyaf members, like Abdulmukim Idris, who apparently had al-Qaeda links. So definitely active on the operational front.
It seems their scope broadened beyond just traditional security, too, around the mid-2000s.
That's right. In 2005, they actually set up directorates specifically for economic intelligence and counterintelligence.
Economic intelligence, so protecting against financial threats.
Exactly. Recognizing that national security isn't just military threats, it's also economic stability, protecting key industries, that sort of thing. And then NMARSC, the Aerial Surveillance Center, was activated in 2006. More tech integration.
And NICA's role got cemented in anti-terrorism laws, too.
Definitely. The Human Security Act of 2007 formally named NICA as the Secretariat for the Anti-Terrorism Council, the ATC.
And that continued with the newer law.
Yes, the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 reaffirmed NICA as the ATC Secretariat. Plus, it gave NICA the role of recommending who should be formally designated or prescribed as terrorists or terrorist groups.
There was also that interesting bit about Juan Ponce and Ryle wanting old NISA files declassified back in 2011.
Yeah, that would have shed a lot more light on the martial law era activities, wouldn't it? It didn't happen, but it raised the issue.
And speaking of controversial issues, that proposed surveillance law.
The Foreign Electronic Surveillance Act bill.
Right. It ultimately died, but it proposed allowing warrantless electronic surveillance in certain emergency situations involving foreign threats.
Which obviously sparked debate about security versus privacy.
A classic balancing act. And the evolution keeps going. Just this year, 2024.
President Marcos Jr.'s executive order.
Exactly. EO 54. It reorganized NICA again, creating a specific office of the Deputy Director General for Cyber and Emerging Threats.
A clear sign they're focusing hard on cybersecurity now.
Absolutely. It shows they're adapting to, well, the modern threat landscape. Okay, so if we were to quickly summarize NICA's main jobs today, based on all this.
Okay, let's see. Conduct and coordinate national intelligence. Fulfill strategic intel needs. Produce the big national intelligence estimate. Lead counterintelligence. Serve as the ATC Secretariat. And head that knowledge cluster for the task force on the communist conflict.
That covers a lot. And we should probably quickly mention some key leaders again. General Vera, obviously, heading NICA.
Yes, a very controversial figure from that era. Then, under President Aquino, you had Colonel Umel and Major General Almonte leading the reestablished NICA.
Yeah, later.
Alfredo Filler was Director General under President Ramos, and more recently, General Alex Paul Monteguido from 2016 to 2022.
Right, so quite a journey we've traced here. NICA's origins, its functions, the structure, a really complex history.
It's definitely complex. You see its role change from the post-war era through martial law, the return to democracy, and now adapting to things like cyber threats.
It really mirrors the Philippines' own security challenges over the decades.
It does. But that core mission, knowledge is safety, seems to remain the constant thread, providing that critical information for the nation's security.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener. Given how threats are always changing, cyber, terrorism, economic pressures, regional instability, How does an agency like NICA need to keep evolving? What strategies, what priorities might need to shift in the coming years for it to stay effective?
Hmm. Something definitely worth considering.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.